Hey guys, and welcome to a new video here on Phloshop. My name is Joseph, and in today's video we're going to be retouching this beauty portrait inside Photoshop. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to be using my workflow actions, so if you don't have that, you can go into the description box, click on the link. It's going to take you to my website, and then you can purchase the workflow actions. And once you're there, I'm also going to be using my skin tone LUTs to color grade this image amongst other layers that I'll be adding later on in the video. So if you don't have my melanin skin tone LUTs as well, or any of my color grading LUTs, you can go onto my website and then purchase those as well. Alright, so starting off, what I want to do is crop this image to a size that I know I'm going to be, exporting it or posting it as, right? And I'm going to hit C for my crop tool, and what this is going to do is just create bounding boxes where you can either choose to move freely around and then customize the crop. So for example, I can decide to, crop it this way if this is what I want to do. But what I want to do is use one of the ratios that have already been provided by Photoshop. So I'm going to click on ratio, and I'm going to come down to 4:5, and this is going to create a bounding box with that 4:5 aspect ratio already added, and then I can move the crop around till I figure out what I want to keep as my final crop. I think this is looking still too big, so I'm just going to move the bottom part in, and as I'm doing that, you can see that it's moving the left and right hand side, and it's still keeping the ratio as is. So I think maybe somewhere around here looks great. Okay, let me just bring it down a tiny bit, and I'm going to hit the check mark. So just going to apply the crop. All right, I think I like the way the crop is looking. We just need to get rid of some of these things, and that's what we're going to be doing next actually. So I'm going to go into my actions, and what I'm going to do is just create a new empty layer. So this is where I'm going to be doing all of my blemish removal and some of the healing things that I'll be doing. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call this blemish removal. That's what I always like to do. I like to get rid of any items that are going to be distracting my image before I run my frequency separation or whatever other actions I want to run. Alright, so with this, I'm going to hit S for my clone stamp tool, and I'm going to make the brush a little bigger and also make the edge a little bit soft. Now I'll just sample a clean area like this, and make sure that your sample is set to current and below. If it's set to current layer, because the layer is blank, nothing is going to happen. So just make sure you've selected current and below. So I'm going to hit Alt right here, and that's going to sample. And now when I start painting, you can see we've been able to easily get rid of that green peg in the back. I'm going to do the same thing over here. So this time what I want to do is sample from an area like this because of the hair, and I'm just going to paint that in. Now I can resample this area and then paint it in, resample, paint, resample, and paint. So now you can see with just a few brush strokes, we've been able to clean up our backdrop already. Now there are a few things I also want to get rid of once I'm here. So I'm just going to zoom into this area and paint away some of these hairs that we can see, right? So I'm going to create a new layer. Hit S again for my clone stamp, and I'm going to sample really close to that hair and then just paint over that. As you can see, we are easily getting rid of those hairs. Alright, that's looking good. So I'm just going to scroll through the image and then get rid of any hairs that are present just to make the edges a little bit neat. Also, don't forget to adjust the size of your brush depending on the area that you're painting, just so you're able to control the area that you're working in. And I believe this is what you do that is going to give you like a lot of control and make your images look as flawless as possible. And that's because you are making sure that you are paying attention to all the things that need you to pay attention to. All right, I'm switching to my healing brush, so sample and then just paint. So all I'm doing is just moving around the image, especially taking into consideration the background, and I'm just doing all of the healing. I think at this point we've been able to heal the backdrop to a very good place. I'm going to hit Command E and do a before and after. You can see that we've been able to get rid of the blemishes in the back. So now we can focus on our subject. Right, I'm going to zoom in and start tackling all the things that are distracting. I'll create a new layer again, The reason why I create these new layers is because once I've already committed to the adjustments I've made below, I want to make sure that if I'm going to do something new, I want to have it on a separate layer. So if I make a mistake, I can just delete that layer instead of deleting everything that I have done already. I can just delete that layer, create a new blank one, and then start from there. So over here, I'm going to hit J for my healing brush tool, and again I'll hit sample, alt sample, and I'll just paint over the blemish. So this is all I'll be doing all through the image, just making sure that I'm removing anything that is distracting at this point. If you're able to spend a lot of time doing your healing, trust me, by the time you're done, your image almost always looks clean. That means that if you're going to do frequency separation and dodge and bend, you are not really going to spend so much time on those areas. If you're able to remove blemishes properly, your image always just looks a lot better. And as you can see, I'm not staying at one place as well. If I'm doing any healing, when I'm done with a particular area, I just scroll through another area, look for blemishes, and then just quickly heal those. Luckily, our subject also doesn't really have a lot of blemishes, and that's one thing that I want you guys also to pay attention to when you're selecting subjects for your beauty portraits, because most of the time what is going to be filling your entire frame is going to be the person's face. You need to have a good canvas. It's just like a painter painting, right? If you're going to paint on a canvas, you always select the best canvas, make sure it's clean, you make sure it's free of any imperfections that would later on affect the painting that you're about to make. And so you see that a lot of people will select the best canvas, or even if they have a canvas that has problems with it, they would always try and fix it in a way that isn't going to affect their painting. So the same is true when you're retouching. This is your canvas, and so if you are going to be taking any pictures, try as much as possible to also have some control over the canvas, aka your subject. Make sure that their skin is really good. This is also going to help the makeup artist, because when they are applying makeup products, they don't really have to use a lot of product to cover blemishes up. Okay, so this is going to help give you that natural skin to show through, because in the makeup process they're not using products to cover blemishes, which is going to end up reduce the texture on your subject's face, because covering all that texture and all those imperfections with product. All right, so I'm still using the healing brush, and I'm just going over areas that are a bit distracting to me. And you can see I'm also adjusting my zoom ratio. So if I'm in a particular area and I want to have like a different point of view to it, sometimes when I'm done healing as well, I will just change the zoom to see if I have gone overboard or if I'm still within an acceptable range. Okay, so that's all I'm doing, and I'm also not staying at one place, because sometimes when you stay at one place you might overdo your healing. Okay, so at this point I think I like all of the healing that I have done, so I'm going to hit Command E to merge that down, and here's a before after. If I zoom into the image a little bit, here's before after. I think I can just get rid of just a few more of them, because we're going to be running dodge and bend and frequency separation, and we can use that as well to reduce the blemishes in the image. All right, so I don't need to stress on the healing so much, but I mean, once I'm here and I can use the tool to get rid of some blemishes, I think I'll just use that and maximize the tool as much as possible, because if I also do a very good job at this level, it means that I'm not going to have so much to do in the other stages that are yet to come. Alright, so with her nails, I'm going to use the clone stamp tool, and because it's a new area, I'm going to create a new layer as well, and I'll just sample and then paint. You can see I'm using the clone stamp tool to draw in the nail and give it like a very nice shape. If you're not too sure, you can also zoom out and then do before and after. You can see that the nail is beginning to look really good. All right, I'm just gonna go over all the nails and make sure that I have cleaned them up in a very pleasing way. This is something that you can even avoid post-production work. So if you are going to be working with your subject again, if you're choosing your canvas and you think that their nails are going to show, I mean, even if it's not, just for safety, you can ask them to do their nails. If you don't have like a nail person on set, you can always just have them do it before they come on set, right? Alright, so now that we've been able to paint and fill the nails, what I want to do is just add a little bit of highlights over those areas. So I've created a new layer. I'm going to hit P for my pen tool, and I'm just going to create a little arc around here, just like that. Yeah, that's looking good. Alright, what I'm going to do is right click and make selection, and I'm going to fill it with white. I'm also going to reduce the radius, the feather radius, and then press OK, and now I'm going to fill this with white, just like that. So if I zoom out, you can see that it looks like it is some reflection from the light. Okay, I'm just going to reduce the opacity a little bit, just like that, and I think we've been able to make it look quite interesting. All right, I'm going to hit Command J, and then we're just going to duplicate that and bring it down as well, and I can zoom in a little bit and then just adjust that shape. So you don't need to commit fully to one arc that you've drawn. You can always adjust it and make it look, you know, suitable to the area that you're dealing with. All right, that looks good. I'm going to hit Command J one more time, and I'm also going to drag this out to the last nail over here. I'm going to zoom in, and then I'm also just going to adjust it till it looks really good. I think somewhere like this looks good, and that is it for the nails. I like the way it's looking. We can actually commit to this. All right, so I'm going to hit Command E. So now we've merged all of those individual healing and painting that we did, and we've put them all on the blemish removal. So here's before and here's after. I think it is beginning to look really, really interesting. All right, I'm just going to zoom into this area right here, create a new layer, and you can see I'm doing these in sections. All right, in the beginning this part was not standing out to me, but after I did all of those healings and did it before and after, it began to jump out at me, and so I just decided to fix that. All right, so here's before and after. I'll do the same thing to this area right here, sample and then paint, and I'm using the healing brush to do that. Now what we're going to do is run the rest of our actions, but before I do that, I'm just going to hit Command E one last time and then make sure I've merged everything onto this layer. So this is the layer containing all of the healing that we've done so far. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is just run my frequency separation action, the 16-bit version, and this is found in my workflow actions. So if you don't have that, check the description box, go onto my website, and then you can purchase the workflow actions. I'm going to press play. And now we need to choose a radius that is suitable for this image. All right, I'm going to look at her cheek and, you know, just click and drag and make sure that we've been able to reduce a lot of the texture. All right, so it's looking blurry, but it's not too blurry. We can still identify that this is an eye, for example, and then this is a nose. So I think somewhere around here looks good. I'm just going to hit OK. And it's going to apply the frequency separation. I also turn on the helper layer. This is just a black and white adjustment layer that lets me see the image in black and white without the color distracting me. So now I can just focus on tonal variations. You can also adjust the curve to suit you. So I'm going to start with a very simple curve like this, and then I'll come back and be adjusting that curve till I'm able to smoothing out a lot of the tonal transitions. All right. Okay, so I'm going to open my frequency separation layer, and I'm going to hit the blur copy, hit B for my brush tool, and I'm going to select a mixer brush. So this is what I'm going to be using to smoothing out the tonal variations. Alright, so all I need to do is just paint, and as I'm painting you can see that it is beginning to smoothing out the tonal variations. In case you don't see it, here's before and after. You can see the forehead is beginning to look a lot smoother. Alright, so I'm just going to go over the entire image, and then I'm just going to be painting and then smoothing out all of the tonal variations. Again, the way I like to work with frequency separation is not to make it overly smooth, but then when I'm doing it out, there are chances of me going to go overboard, but then that is why we have the opacity. After I'm done using the frequency separation and the blur and all of that to smoothing out the image, I will just now use my opacity to fine-tune how much of it I want to be visible, because this is like a stepping stone. This is one part of the smoothing process, and this is more or less like a shortcut. It's supposed to help me easily dodge and bend, but I will spend a lot of time inside the dodge and bend area just trying to smoothing the tonal variations. But then again, I don't want to spend forever using dodge and bend, and so I'm using frequency separation to do like maybe 40% of the job, and then spend the rest of the 60% using dodging and bending to smoothing out the inconsistencies. All right, now you'd see that what I'm also doing is I'm not painting maybe from the highlight areas into the dark tone areas. I'm trying to stay within, you know, like an area. So if I'm in the shadow area, for example, I'm just, you know, painting within the shadow area, and when I move into the midtones, I stay within the midtones, and when I'm in the highlights, I also stay within the highlights. This is just because I don't want to bleed either highlights into the shadow areas or bleed shadow areas into highlight areas. If you do that, your image is not going to look realistic, and it's not going to look, you know, as natural as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to respect the lighting patterns on the image. I'm not trying to change it in any way. So when I'm doing this frequency separation, I'm also trying to, you know, respect where the highlights and shadow patterns originally were created by my lighting, and that is why lighting is also very important. Okay, I'm going to turn off the frequency separation help layer, and I'll just do a before and after of the frequency separation. You can see that we are making a lot of changes in the image. That is really good. We're going to turn on the helper layer one more time, and I'm going to go into the curves, and we're going to adjust the curves, you know, just to another point, and see if we need to do any more of the, you know, painting inside frequency separation. So I'm just going to go over this area just briefly. Alright, so I'm going to hide my frequency separation. I can even just delete it because I don't need it anymore. And now that I'm inside frequency separation, all I'll do is just bring the opacity down, let's say to about 60%. So here's before and here's after. You can see that it is present, but it's not as strong as before. I'm going to go back into my actions, and over here I'm going to run my dodge and bend complete action set. So over here with the curves, we can keep adjusting it depending on what we are doing or what we want to fix, because it's going to make the, you know, inconsistencies more visible or less visible. Right, so I'm going to start off with this curve that has already been applied, and now what I'm going to do is select a regular brush instead of the mixer brush, and I'm going to reduce the flow to about 2%, and I'm going to start with my dodging and bending. Right, so I'm going to go over areas that I feel are too dark for where they are, and I'm going to lighten them up. So this is all I will be doing with the dodge and bend. I will be dodging areas that are too dark for where they are, and I will be burning areas that are too light for where they are. Okay. But another thing is you need to still respect where your highlights and your shadow patterns are, because if you're not too careful, you may end up making your image look very flat, because then again, there isn't going to be any highlight, midtone and shadows. You've just flattened out everything. So even though you're dodging and bending and trying to remove these tonal variations, you still need to bear in mind that your image has to look three-dimensional, and so you do need highlights, you do need midtones, and then you do need shadows present in your image. All right. So also, if you're getting value from this video, I will recommend that you hit the like button, you know, to help me and help the algorithm, you know, so that it can share this video to more people. Right, I'm going to turn off the help layer temporarily and then do it before and after. I can see that we are smoothing the image and it is beginning to look a lot better. I think I like the way the image is looking. I'm going to keep it in this view for a while and I'm still going to be dodging and burning. So over here, I think I want to dodge it a little bit. Just like that. I'm going to go into burn and now I'm just going to burn certain areas that I feel need burning. Okay, just like that. Alright, so now that we are done with dodge and burn, I'm going to create another dodge and burn layer, and that's going to be the global dodge and burn. Alright, you can still use the same complete set, but what I'm going to do is hit on burn, hit on dodge, and I'm going to press play, and this is going to create a dodge and burn on separate layers for me. I'm going to start with dodge and I'm going to paint over any area that already has like some highlights present in the image. Alright, so painting over these areas. I'll paint over the lips as well, and anywhere that there is highlight, I'm just going to go over with my brush. What this is going to do is just give the image a lot of like a three-dimensional pop to it, and that's all we need. So here's before and after. It's really subtle, but it's present. I'm going to go to burn, and now I'm going to darken any area that needs to be darkened. So you can see any area that needs darkening, I'm just going over that and then just, making it more prominent. So the more you're able to play with your light and shadow, you're going to have a more three-dimensional looking image. Okay, if I group these, hit Command G and do it before and after, you can see that we've added a lot of shape to it. I'm just going to reduce the opacity down just a little bit, so let's say 54%. Before, after, it is present, still there. I'm going to hit on burn and create a new burn layer because I want to burn this area in just a tiny bit. All right, okay, I think I like the way it's looking, and we'll do the same thing to her collarbone. Alright, before and after. I think I like the way it's looking. So now that we are done with the burning, what I want to do is just zoom into the image and see if there's any healing, any blemish removal that I missed, and I'll just do that before I move on to color grading. So inside the eyes, for example, I think we need to paint with white in the eyes just to get rid of some of the yellows in there. So with a very low flow, I'm just going to paint in targeted areas inside the eye whites, and just reducing. So let me reduce my flow even more so that the build-up is very, very gradual. I think I like this. I'll move on to the right eye or her left eye, and then I'll just paint over those as well, and then just get rid of that. I don't want to get rid of it completely. I want it to be a little bit in the eyes, but not as prominent as it is. I'll reduce the opacity to about 70%, and this looks really good. Zooming back into the eye again, I think I want to heal some of these, little inconsistencies here. So I'm using my healing brush again. I'll alt sample and then paint. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I want to reduce some of these bright parts in the eye. I'm just using my healing brush for that. All right. I don't want those to be standing out in the image, so I'm just painting over them and then getting rid of that. If I do it before and after, you can see that now the eye is looking a lot cleaner. I'll move to the other eye and then do the same thing as well. So when it comes to high-end retouching, I believe paying attention to these micro issues is what's going to go a long way to give you that very refined look on your images, right? But if you just want to do global adjustments and you don't, pay attention to like the core parts of the image, the little things that need your attention, then your image isn't going to be looking high-end. So I'm just going to hit R for my rotate tool. I'm going to rotate the image a little bit, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to paint in a few, eyebrow strands. So I'm going to hit B for my brush tool. I'll create a new layer, and I'm going to make the brush a little bit hard, let's say about 95%, and I'll make it very small, about 1 or 2 pixels, and I'm going to paint with black. So with a very high flow, let's say 63%, I can see that I'm able to draw in some strands. All right, I'll make the brush a little bigger, and then now I'll just paint in more strands in the eyebrows. So here's before and after. I can see that it is looking a lot fuller now. I'll do the same thing right here. These are things that may not immediately stand out to you, but with time you begin to see them, and then you begin to fix them, and those little things are always going to go a very long way in making your image look, very high end. So here's before and after. I can rename this to eyebrow strands. Perfect. The one below is eyelash, and the one below is eye whites. I name my layers so that I have an idea of what they're doing. Okay, so if you want to stay organized, this is something that you can also do. I think I like the way the image is looking now. We're gonna go into the first layer and then select our color grade and press play. So what it's going to do is create a new group where we can now do our color grading. The first thing is my color lookup table. So this is where I will be adding my LUTs. All right, so I'm going to select one of these LUTs and see the one that flatters the image a lot. So fade punch. Fade punch isn't too bad. This is also a very unique look. I think I like the way Flamey is looking. There's before and after. Fire gold is just going to warm everything up, and this is not a very bad color grade at all. If I just bring the opacity down, you can see that we have like a very warm looking image. But let me look at Phloshop. Actually, I'm gonna stick with Phloshop because that looks really, really good. All right, so what I'm going to do now is create a color balance and then just figure out the sliders and see the one that's going to flatter the image the most. If you want to go for a stylized look, is up to you. If you also want to go for like a little hint of color grade, it's all up to you. Coloring, like I said, is more subjective than objective. It depends on your mood or what you're feeling. You can always go in any direction, and that's absolutely fine. All right, I'll go into hue saturation and just go into reds, desaturate the reds a little bit, go into yellows and also desaturate the yellows a little bit. All right, now we're going to go into selective color, and we'll start off with reds. So inside the reds, let's just see what we can do. Just moving the sliders around and seeing what looks more appealing to me. All right, I'll go into yellows and again do the same thing, just play with the sliders and see what's more flattering to the image. Now I'm going to move into the neutrals and let's just see what we can do to the neutrals. All right, so this is before and after. We're going to reduce the opacity to about 50%, so we have a little bit of that color grade showing through. I'll create a new curves, and what I want to do is just brighten the image a little bit. So I'm going to move it like that, and you can see we are brightening the image, and this is looking really good. All right, so here's before and after. I think adding that lightning effect just, you know, opens up the image a lot more. Alright, so one last thing I want to do is just to make sure that the skin tone is matching all around. So what I'm going to do is go back into my actions, and I'm going to hit on color match and press play. Now what I'll do is select B for my brush tool, and I'll just sample like a general area that has a color that I like, so something like this, and I'll just paint over the image. So this is just going to move any colors that are not within the range into that color range. So this is one trick that you can quickly do to fix any color variations in your image, right? I'm also going to reduce the opacity just a little bit. So here's before and after. I really like what we've been able to do so far. So I'm going to put all of this into a group and then call this retouch. So now when we start, this is where we started from, and this is where we are. The image is looking really good. I love the edit. You can see that we were able to use my actions, not all of them, but we used the necessary ones to retouch the image, and I really love the way it's looking. This is looking really, really good. One last thing I want to do is I just want to go back into my color lookup. So I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to go into the fire gold, and you know, I just want to apply that. So you can see it's made the image look a lot more golden, and I just want to reduce the opacity to about 32%. I want a little bit of that golden effect in the image. So here's before and here's after. You can see that it is giving us that really nice vibe. So I believe this brings me to the end of this retouching video. If you enjoyed it or if you learned something, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. And remember, don't ever give up.